Hey guys, welcome back. So we are continuing with more of Al Ewing's Immortal Thor, where now Roxxon Thor is about to take the fight to the real Thor. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so for this one, we come back just after Thor has finished reading Roxxon Presents Thor issue 1, and it isn't until now where he's actually realizing what this is. And I imagine a lot of you guys were feeling the same way, since Marvel actually released this comic as its own standalone issue 1, but like we've seen throughout Ewing's Immortal Thor series, this Roxxon Presents Thor comic book, it's a magical artifact designed by Dario Agger and the Enchantress to destroy Thor and replace him. And at this point, we actually find out that there's a bit more that's going on here, because prior to this point, we were led to believe that Roxxon Thor was just 100% manifested from the spell of Enchantress. But after he shows up in Dario Agger's office, in front of the real Thor, it isn't too long before the real Thor starts to figure this out. And to Thor's credit, that's no small feat, because just by the nature of this spell changing Thor's story, it's caused him to struggle with gathering his own thoughts. But with Roxxon Thor arriving here, he's just going on about how he's the real Thor now, and how his stuff is way cooler as far as his gadgets and Thor truck and Mjolnir Premium. And this whole time, in the real Thor's mind, all he can gather is phrases and different banter, but the ones that come to him are responses like "you can keep it" and phrases like the one for the Thor truck that say "keep on truckin'," which eventually causes him to realize Roxxon Thor is actually the Keep. And I gotta admit, I did not see this coming, but it makes sense. Because back in the Mighty Thor Volume 2 issues 14 and 15, when Enchantress led Donald Blake to believe that she would make him a god again, she fulfilled this wish, though in a way that would only benefit her. So to do this, she ended up decapitating him and turning his body into the Keep, which technically was her granting his wish and making him a god again, though it was not at all in the way that he actually wanted it to happen. But instead, this was really just her creating the man of her dreams. And to take it a step further, when Thor calls her out for creating the Keep just to replace Scourge, Enchantress admits now that Scourge is back, the Keep needed a new persona. So things just kind of fell into place when Roxxon Thor needed a physical form. But also with admitting this to be true, Enchantress mentions that she does regret making some of the hints a little too obvious, so she plans to correct that with issue 2. But the way Thor sees it at this point, this whole thing is just a game that they're playing. So even with that being the case, he's gonna play to win. Because not only is this a fake Thor with a fake hammer, but Thor's defeated the Keep before. And the way he sees it, he's about to handle this guy again. But before he gets the chance to get started, the Keep gives Thor a taste of that Mjolnir Premium, knocking Thor out of Roxxon headquarters. And Thor definitely feels that hit. And he realizes like, okay, the Keep was always strong. But now that he's enhanced with this magical upgrade, and Thor can hardly piece an original thought together, this just lets him know that it's going to be a lot tougher than any time in the past. And through the course of this, the Keep, he's really staying in character. Like, he really thinks he's Thor, and he's got Roxxon Kool-Aid pumping through his veins. But at one point here, he just crosses the line, because the Keep tells him, "I'm the Thor of this world now, the true son of Midgard, this pathetic plastic world." And that right there just has Thor like, "What did you say about my mama?" And he just brings down the lightning on this guy, something serious. And it's funny because you would think somebody who's posing as Thor and using magic to do so would have made sure to have had some type of protection against lightning. And it seems like Enchantress might have looked over that minor detail. So the Keep calls out for her help, and Enchantress responds by providing more magic to strengthen the Keep so he can stand the fight. But now this starts to raise some concerns for Dario Agger, the Minotaur, because the Enchantress even goes as far as to make the Keep the locus of the spell, the focal point, and that concerns the Minotaur because now he's like, okay, so what happens if Thor destroys the Keep? So she tells him even if Thor kills the Keep, it'll still stay in its Roxxon Thor form and appearance. And she even goes on to say like Thor wouldn't go that far. He's not the type of guy who would just take a life in anger. And of course she's being sarcastic. And the Minotaur picks up what she's saying. And he's more or less like, oh well, that's too bad for the Keep. Because sometimes you gotta make little sacrifices. And it's better if those little sacrifices are the little people. Business is cutthroat at its core after all. And somebody's gotta be at the sharp end. And right when he says this, Scourge hits him in the back with the sharp end of Tormod, which from here makes for an unexpected turn of events. But before we get into what exactly that is, first we gotta head into this unexpected segue to today's sponsor for the indie comic Good Devil Issue 1, written by Quentin Kennedy, which introduces a story that takes place after an insane cosmic event where we find a boy that is mysteriously awoken from the grave. But the world that he finds himself in now, it's not like the one he once knew. And the way this reads, it's kind of a mind trip as we follow him and he finds out that this world is different as he comes across different creatures and eventually realizes that he's not the same either. So make sure to check out the link in the description for more details on Good Devil Issue 1, available now. But at this point with Dario Agger on the ground leaking, the Enchantress had Scourge do this because she's still in the show from here, and she's taken the opportunity to do this now because of what she's seeing take place in the fight between Thor and the Keep. Because just now, after she gave the Keep a bit of a power up so he could hang on in this fight with Thor and go for round 2, for a moment here the Keep starts bragging because one of the main differences between him and Thor is that unlike the real Thor, the Keep has a simple job because all Roxxon Thor really has to do is be strong, while the real Thor on the other hand, he has to be a wise king, a kind brother, a noble hero, while again the Keep, he just has to be strong, he just has to be Thor. And it's right here where I really like where the real Thor takes it. Cause for a moment here, the Keep, aka Roxxon Thor, he throws Mjolnir Premium and the real Thor just smacks it right back at him. But I really like how Ewing handles this, cause right after the Keep goes crashing down, cause I mean for one, that was a hard hit. But right after he goes crashing down, Thor swoops right in. And he tells the Keep, stand if you would bear the weight of my name as others have. Stand, as they did, with your hammer in your hand. Stand as they did and look death in the eye. And to me, now, and I mean I might be overthinking it, but to me this moment really needed that. Because when it comes down to any of the other Thors, whether it's Thunderstrike, Jane Foster, Storm, Beta Ray Bill, they've all had their moments where they had to look death in the eye. And more often than not, death is what followed. So in a way here, not only is Thor telling the Keep, if you want to live like Thor, you need to be ready to die like one. But also this follows what we saw after Thor's conversation with his mother, where he came out of that cave ready to serve judgment. But now with how this is going down, to the world it's a spectacle. And that's precisely how the Enchantress sees it too. Cause when it comes down to it, she was hoping that Thor would put on a show. Because right now back at Roxxon headquarters, she's now taken on the identity of Astrid Mora, the new vice president, as she calls for Roxxon security to let them know they need to get up to the Minotaur's office. Because Thor just left and something terrible has just happened. Because when we go back to Thor, we see this play out the way that the Enchantress expected it to play out this whole time. Because not only is Thor putting on a show for the world to see, because from this point forward it's just embarrassing for Roxxon Thor. Because at one point he throws Mjolnir Premium, only to have Thor call back the real Mjolnir to come through and smash that thing to pieces. And Thor even goes on to tell the Keep that he dishonors anyone who's ever taken on Thor's name. Which more or less sounds like the comment section when we talked about Roxxon Presents Thor Issue 1, cause you guys wasn't having it. So right here, to expose the Keep, Thor calls down the lightning and he tells the storm to come through in its full power. And he even goes as far as to say, as the Allfather, he gives the storm full permission to burn this pretender away. And it shoots right through the Keep, it cooks this guy. And as all these people are watching and recording it on their phones, they're all just like, man, Thor just killed Thor. But he just goes on to tell them like, no, this is the Keep, and how there was this magic spell that made him look like him, but now that it's over, the Keep is going to turn back into his original form. But moments pass and nothing changes, and this causes him to have doubts, because remember, just moments ago, Thor wasn't sure if he can trust his own thoughts. So the next thing he does is call for Tormod, his axe, which as we know it has its association with wisdom, to where if someone's lacking it then the axe gets heavy. And when Thor calls for his axe, it comes to him. Though at this time he's unaware that back at Roxxon headquarters, to all these guys, a murder weapon just fled the scene, so you can kinda get the idea of what this is looking like here. But to tie all of this together, when Thor catches his axe, right after killing Roxxon Thor, Tormod is still covered with Dario Agger's blood. And everybody's watching this, they're streaming it, they putting it on TikTok, which may or may not be in the US by the time this video come out, I don't know. But everything the Enchantress wanted is now fallen into place, with her manipulating this whole situation and setting up Thor to look like he's guilty of a double homicide. It's crazy. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons, Thank you guys for all of your support, and for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.